It happened back in 1978, somewhere in the far eastern Pacific, where the horizon was nothing but still water and pale sky. I was barely 20 then, a kid serving aboard the USS Stein, a Knox-class frigate that felt more like a floating factory than a warship. We'd been out for weeks, expecting a dull patrol, nothing more than waves and routine. The ocean was calm, the kind of flat calm that looked painted, and even the sky seemed tired of moving. I remember the first sign of anything unusual came from sonar, just a faint, slow-moving contact deep below us, steady as if it were pacing our course. The operators laughed about it, made squid jokes, and I joined in until the ship gave that first subtle tremor one night, a shiver through the hull that silenced every mouth in the mess. You ever wonder what really lives down there? My name's Carter Doyle, and back then I was a seaman recruit, more nerves than sense, trying to act like I belonged among men who'd seen the world through storms, wars, and too many empty horizons. The Stein was all gray lines and humming steel, one screw turning in the rear, a sonar dome under her nose. The crew called it the rubber brain of the ship. The chief said it was our ear in the water, our way to listen to the deep. Winter of '78, cool air, soft daylight, the ocean stretching south of the equator where nothing moved but clouds and our own wake. Mornings began with that brutal voice on the loudspeaker, a bark that yanked us from sleep and rattled the racks. The air always smelled of coffee, oil, and powered eggs. I'd smack my head on the bunk above, curse quietly, pull on my dungarees, and join the shuffle toward the mess line. Metal trays slid, cooks slammed food down, and men swapped stories about home, cars, and women. Anything to forget how endless the ocean was. Petty Officer Marco Ramrez was the heart of those mornings. A man in his 30s with a mustache built for authority and eyes that had already seen too much. He'd tap my tray with a fork and say, "Eat up, Doyle. The sea's watching, and you don't want to look weak." I'd grin and shoot back, "Aye, sir. I'll make Poseidon proud." He'd laugh loud enough for everyone. "You've got no idea, Boo." Our days ran like clockwork. Watch, chow, maintenance, and sleep. On the bridge, Commander Alan Reeves stood like part of the structure itself. Mid-40s maybe, silver showing at his temples, voice quiet but certain. He never needed to raise it. Authority just followed him. He'd been in Vietnam, ran coastal patrols, the kind of man who stayed calm even when rounds cut air. The crew respected him more than they liked him. I'd sometimes see him standing alone on the bridge wing at dusk, steering over the rails with his hands behind his back, as if he could hear something none of us could. Beneath all of us, in the dim blue light of the sonar room, was Lieutenant Susan Hale, one of the few women I'd met who could silence an entire deck with a single sentence. Late 20s, sharp jaw, hair pulled back so tight you'd swear it hurt. She ruled sonar, her men, the machines, the logbooks. Some of the older salts mocked her behind her back. College girl, token officer, but not when she was around. She carried herself like someone who had to be twice as precise to get half the credit. She kept a small brown notebook in her breast pocket, its edges taped, pages crowded with neat handwriting. Every watch she logged odd returns, echoes that didn't fit patterns, things that made even experienced operators frown. Then there was Chief Engineer Tom Delaney, a man built like the boilers he loved, broad, scarred, always complaining about his spine and the crew, but never leaving the engine spaces unless forced. He swore at God, grease, and gravity alike, but no one knew that ship's heartbeat like he did. He could tell by vibration when something wasn't right. For me, life was simple: plane, carry, report, and try not to screw up. When I wasn't on deck, I worked lines with Ramirez, scraping rust, stowing gear, or just watching the ship's wake stretch like chalk behind us. Those early days felt almost peaceful. The air stayed warm, nights came soft and quiet. Even the hum of the engine sounded like a lullaby. I'd catch myself forgetting we were on a vessel built for combat. It felt more like a small city adrift between continents. The captain did his daily rounds with his clipboard, nodding at logs, asking questions that kept everyone alert. One afternoon, he stopped in sonar. Lieutenant Hale straightened, handed over her report. Reeves scanned it, nodded once, and said in that low, steady tone, "Keep it clean, Lieutenant." She answered, "Aye, sir." I remember watching her after he left. She exhaled, then scribbled something in her notebook. I grew fascinated by that room, the soft hum, the green glow of scopes, the faint rhythm of pings echoing through metal. Once she caught me standing at the hatch and motioned me inside. "Ever wonder how this works, Doyle?" she asked. I shook my head. "Just know it's what keeps us alive." She smiled faintly. "It's simple. We send sound into the dark. It bounces back and tells us if something's there. She pointed at a diagram, waves leaving the dome, striking unknown shapes, returning as echoes. Out here, there's nothing to bounce off but the abyss. So when something answers, we listen. I half joked. Ever pick up anything strange? Her eyes met mine, flat and calm. Out here, strange is normal. She tapped her pocket notebook. That answer stayed with me longer than I wanted it to. That night, running coffee to the bridge, I found Reeves again, alone in the rain mist. He took the mug, gave a quiet nod, then stared out at the black surface below. No lights, no horizon, just the faint reflection of our own red running lamps. There was something unnerving about the stillness, a silence so thick it felt like pressure on your chest. I'd never felt small until then. Later, passing his cabin, I saw him through a cracked door sitting shirtless on his bunk, glasses low on his nose, reading a worn letter, the kind you'd keep folded 100 times over. I moved on quietly. Even captains have ghosts, I thought. Back in the mess, Ramirez liked to keep my nerves alive with stories. "You know what's under us, Boot?" he asked one day, as we chipped paint on the bow. "Water, Chief." He grinned. "Real funny. You ever hear of ships getting their sonar domes chewed up?" I laughed. "Kraken stuff, right?" "Some stories start as truth," he said, tapping the steel hull. "Ocean's deep enough to hide things we've never met. Sometimes it looks back." I brushed it off, but that night Hale ran a routine test pattern. I was there delivering a message when she paused, squinting at the scope. "That's odd," she murmured. For a heartbeat, the small bright echo appeared far deeper than usual, then vanished. "Glitch?" I asked. "Probably." She noted the time anyway. No alarms, no drama. Just one mark too deep to mean anything. We forgot it fast. But even now, I can still see that dot. Small, cold, alone, blinking from the edge of nothing. The ocean changed before anyone had words for it. One morning, the surface lost its rhythm. It went slick and silent, like a sheet stretched tight over something breathing underneath. Wind vanished. Flags on the mast sagged without life. Even the horizon seemed drained of color, a hazy wash of white where sky and water blurred. Chief Delaney came up for his smoke break, squinting across that eerie calm, and spat over the rail. "Don't trust it," he muttered. I asked what he meant. He jerked his chin toward the motionless sea. "When the ocean stops moving, it's loading a punch. Storm, current, doesn't matter. Still water means something's waiting." Down in sonar, Lieutenant Hale was already fighting ghosts on the screen. Tiny hard returns too deep for subs, too high for the bottom. They flickered, appeared, and vanished before her operators could lock on. "Whales?" one asked, hopeful. She shook her head. "Not on that bearing. Whales travel in arcs. These don't." She ran diagnostics, checked cables, reseated panels, even cleaned the board contacts with cotton and alcohol. Everything came back clean. "Equipment noise," she told the captain. But I saw her make another note in that little brown book. That same day, I saw my first dead fish drift past the hull. A gray herring, belly up, turning lazy circles near the bow. Along its side ran a row of perfect round scars, suction marks, deep and even. I called Ramirez over. "What the hell's that from?" He looked once, long enough to lose his grin. "Could be nets," he said, voice flat. "Maybe gear marks." "Doesn't look like nets," I answered. He shrugged, already turning away. "Fish die all kinds of ways, Doyle. Don't start thinking everything's a story." But that wasn't like him. Ramirez never skipped a chance to spin a yawn. Later that afternoon, standing at the fantail, I watched our wake twist. It should have been a perfect white trail behind us, but now it bent, split, like something underneath was shoving at it. A patch of water just behind the stern frothed up, bubbling as if a current boiled from below. It lasted 3 seconds, then stilled. I asked the lookout if he saw it. "Probably gas," he said. "Gas from what?" He didn't answer. Around that time, seabirds began showing up. Thin, gray, sharp-winged things that rode the air currents above us for hours. Then, just as suddenly, they turned and flew away in unison, retreating toward the same point on the horizon. After that, nothing. The sky and sea both felt empty, like we drifted into a place where life didn't belong. That night, rain ticked softly on the superstructure while we ate in the mess. Ramirez had his usual circle of listeners, spoon-tapping his tray. "You know, a ship once came in with her sonar dome torn to hell," he began. "Rubber ripped open like claws took to it. They found bone shards in the cuts, hooks, not metal." A few men groaned. "Here he goes again." Ramirez smiled without humor. "Navy said squid, not the kind they fry up for you boys. Hooks bigger than thumbs. They said the creature grabbed the bow, realized it wasn't food, and let go, left pieces of itself behind. Someone threw a bread roll at him. Bullshit, he laughed, but his eyes stayed fixed on the steel deck. Nobody noticed how the lights flickered just once before dimming. When they studied, the ship felt different, like it had inhaled. I was near sonar when it happened. Every screen blinked off for a breath, then snapped back with static dancing across them. A ping went out during that blackout, uncommanded. When power stabilized, snow still shimmered across the monitors. Strange echoes blinking and fading. Engineering, power fluctuation, Ale called. Delaney's voice came back sharp over the line. All systems steady down here. Maybe your gear glitched. Hale frowned. We saw her too, she said quietly. Later she'd find the timestamp matched one of those deep, impossible blips. That night, I stood topside on midwatch, air cold enough to sting, boots humming with the engine's pulse. The sea below was pure ink. Then I saw it, a darker patch within the dark, moving beneath our bow like a shadow trying to keep pace. No wake, no glow, just an absence, sliding along for 5 or 6 seconds before dissolving. My breath caught. When my relief came, I told the officer of the deck, a young academy type too proud to yawn. Probably your eyes, Doyle. Overcast night, no stars. Everything looks alive out here. I nodded, said yes, sir, but it stuck with me all the same. I went below and felt it still, but phantom shapes sliding under my bunk. Dawn broke gray and hollow. I was delivering a message when I heard Hale snap. Hold that, back it up. I poked my head into sonar. Her crew was hunched over their screens, green light painting their faces. What's up, she asked the operator. Big contact, ma'am, real big. Passed right under our track. She stepped closer, pencil in hand. The afterimage still pulsed faintly, a long, solid smear. Not bottom, not clutter. Depth, she asked. The number he read made the room go still, far below any sub could safely run. Layer issue? Someone muttered. Maybe, Hale said, though her jaw tightened. 10 minutes later, the deck beneath us trembled. A low rumble rolled through the hull, deep as thunder trapped in steel. Coffee cups rattled in the racks. Feels like a damn speaker under my feet, a sailor said. Then came the jolt, one hard impact that made the whole ship jump. Men shouted, locker slammed open, alarms chirped and died. Somewhere forward, a pipe split and sprayed water. Delaney's team was on it instantly, clanging and swearing as they clamped it down. Reeves was already on the bridge, jacket half on, calm but faster than usual. Report, he ordered. No surface contacts, came the radar call. Navigation clear. No shoals, no seamounts. Sonar? Large contact crossed beneath us, sir, Hale said over the phone. Deeper than any sub, too strong for a whale. Delaney's voice broke in from below. Got a cracked pipe forward, Captain. Feels like we got scraped. Something dragged us for a second, then let go. Reeves repeated it slowly. Dragged? Yes, sir. Not a hit, a pull. Reeves stared out over the bow where the sea rolled innocent as ever. Check forward integrity, he said. No flooding beyond that pipe. Hours later, they pulled the video from a hull camera mounted near the dome. The footage was murky, clouds of drifting debris lit by the ship's own lance. For a moment during the impact window, something pale slid past the lens, a curve of flesh or skin, out of focus, lined with round marks like coins. One officer leaned close. Could be torn rubber from the dome, he said. Light distortion. Reeves's face gave nothing. Label it, archive the clip, don't tape over it. That's when I knew he wasn't brushing this off. In the mess later, the tone had changed. Men still joked, but laughter came tight and quick. Some swore we'd hit a whale. Others whispered about a drifting container or sub-debris. Ramirez smoked in silence. When I brought up his old Kraken story, he shook his head. Don't mix fairy tales with the job, he said. That shut me up faster than an order. But that night, I saw Hale again in sonar. The glow of her screen painting her face like she hadn't moved since morning. I brought her a cup of coffee. You think it's damaged bad? I asked. We'll know in port, she said softly. She turned a dial, adjusted the gain. On her display, a faint smudge hovered in our wake. Steady, quiet, matching our course. Could that be it? I asked. Could be noise, she said. Her hand hovered over the keyboard. Or something big that doesn't want to ping back. She stared at it until it faded. Then she wrote in her notebook, shut it, and said without looking up, whatever it is, it's following. The real unease crept in quiet, like rust under paint. It wasn't one event that turned the Stein nervous. It was the accumulation of things that shouldn't happen. Water moving wrong, instruments lying, dreams that felt too loud. I'd stand watch and notice the sea bubbling in strange patches. circular eddies that vanished when you blinked. The wake behind us, once clean and white, twisted like something below was pressing up against it. In sonar, Hale's operators whispered about returns that looked like threads, multiple faint streaks at different depths, weaving together before disappearing. Looks like arms, one muttered before catching himself. Hale didn't answer, but I saw her knuckles whiten. She logged every flicker, every second of static, every faint echo that didn't belong. Then came the day the shit slowed without orders. No alarms, no engine surge, just an abrupt drag that sent everyone stumbling forward. It felt like the entire vessel had been caught in invisible hands. Metal groaned, tools rolled. One poor bastard in the engine room screamed as a wrench crushed his foot when it slipped off a bench. "Engine steady," Delaney barked, his voice echoing through the comm lines. No cavitation spike, no prop snagged, but the Stein wasn't moving right. The deck vibrated wrong, the kind of wrong that gets under your skin. Then the sound came, a scraping, long and low, starting under the bow and running aft like a file against steel. Men froze mid-step, the hull sang in pain. And just as suddenly as it began, the resistance released. The ship lurched forward, the engines nearly over-revving as the strain vanished. Delaney came to the bridge minutes later, sweat streaking through grime, face drawn tight. "Something grabbed us," he said, slamming his printouts on the chart table. No mechanical reason for that slowdown. Whatever it was, it came from outside. Reeves didn't look away from the sea. "We'll write it as unexplained drag until proven otherwise." "You can call it whatever you want," Delaney growled, but I felt it in my spine. Hale stepped forward quietly. "Captain, sonar showed a dense cluster onto the bow during the event. Not a single contact, multiple small ones, moving as one. Could still be biological," another officer offered. "Big squid, whale pod, debris field." Hale's tone sharpened. "Then it's the most organized debris field I've ever seen." Reeves raised his hand, cutting her off. "We log facts, not stories. Keep your team steady." That night I took my post forward lookout again. The sea was brighter than usual, the sun a hot blur on the horizon, and for a second I thought I saw something pale just under the surface, sliding parallel to us. It was thick and long, fading into green shadow, with faint, darker circles running along it. My mouth went dry. "Ramirez," I called, voice cracking. He jogged over, cigarette already lit. "What?" I said, pointing down. The shape vanished just as he leaned over the rail. He squinted into the waves, face blank. "Could have been a ray," he said, though his tone was flat. "Could have been your eyes." "You believe me, though," I said. He didn't answer, just took another drag, smoke shaking faintly between his fingers. "My job's to keep you from jumping overboard," he muttered, and walked away. That was the last time he tried to joke. Reeves sent up a coded message that night, summarizing the anomalies, the impact, the damage. The reply came hours later. Tight maybe language. "Monitor. Maintain course. Continue mission. No diversion. No assistance." He folded the message and slid it into a folder a little too carefully. Later, outside the wardroom, I overheard pieces of a meeting, voices low, sharp. "Hale again. This isn't random, Captain. It reacts to us. Depth changes line up with our speed shifts." "Coincidence," said one senior lieutenant. "We've all seen weird sonar ghosts. Ghosts don't hold formation with you," she said, "and they don't drag 6,000 tons of steel backward." Silence. Then Reeves spoke, calm as always. "We stay alert. We don't label it. We handle what we can see." But his next words chilled me. "Until proven otherwise, we treat it as hostile." After that, something shifted in all of us. The word hostile has weight at sea. It means there's an enemy, even if you don't understand what kind. By the next sunrise, the mood was different. Men moved faster, quieter. Even the clatter of trays in the mess seemed hushed. Forward spaces were avoided unless duty demanded it. Guys claimed they heard scraping during night watches. Tiny irregular taps that came and went like knuckles brushing the hull. Ramirez stopped talking altogether. He'd sit by the rail after shift, cigarette burning down untouched, eyes fixed on the wake. "She's following," one sailor whispered. And she was, on sonar. The contact, if that's what you could call it, stayed just beyond perfect range. Every time Reeves ordered a course change or speed variation, it adjusted. Always the same distance behind or below. When plotted, its path looked like a ghost trail hugging our own. That's when the captain started calling it the follower. Never over the intercom, only in those quiet corners of command. But once you name something, you give it life. By the 5th day, the sea was so flat you could mistake it for polished stone. Not a ripple, not a breeze. Even the exhaust from our stacks hung low and refused to drift. It was like the ocean was holding its breath. When night fell, you could hear every creak, every whisper. That's when I realized what had changed most. The ship itself sounded different. Normally you live with the rhythm, the hum of engines, the slap of water, the endless pulse of mechanical heartbeats. But now that background felt muffled, like something beneath us was swallowing the sound. Even Hale's sonar pings seemed weaker, like they were being caught in a hand and pressed down. I woke that night to a dream, or maybe not a dream, of tapping on steel. 4 knocks, then silence, then 4 more, slower. I thought I imagined it, until I heard someone in the next rack whisper, "You hear that?" Nobody answered. By morning, the tap stopped. But I swear, when I went topside, the ocean looked back. The storm hit on a night that felt too still to warn us. Clouds rolled in like smoke, heavy and without lightning, swallowing stars, one by one, until the world shrank to the size of the ship. Waves slapped at the hull that there was no real wind, just the weight of air pressing down. Half the crew couldn't sleep. Even those off duty lingered in passageways, drinking bad coffee and waiting for something we couldn't name. I was in sonar when it started. The air in there always felt damp, like breath trapped in metal. Hale stood behind our operators, eyes fixed on the glowing scopes. "Contact," one of them said quietly, voice stripped of the usual calm. She leaned forward, pen tapping against her palm. "Bearing, dead ahead, ma'am. Moving up, fast. Depth coming up from below 800, now 6, now 4. She snatched the phone from its cradle. "Bridge, sonar, large contact directly under the bow, rising quick." On the bridge, Reeves' tone stayed level. "Steady as she goes," he said. "No panic, no sharp orders." Sudden turns in seas like this could roll a frigate if the timing was wrong. The next sound came not through the comms but through the ship itself, a deep, wet thud that traveled from bow to stern, shaking bolts loose in their sockets. "Men hit decks," someone shouted. "Brace!" The whole forward section heaved, lifting like would struck something submerged, then slammed down again with a hollow boom that made every bone in my body hum. I was thrown against the chart table, papers and pens scattering like snow. "Damage control forward," Reeves barked. An alarm shrieked to life, their echoes mixing with the grinding howl of metal under strain. Then the second impact came, harder, closer, dragging us to starboard. The hull moaned like it was alive. Out on deck, searchlights warred on, slicing through sheets of rain and fog. What they caught burned itself into my mind. From the water rose a massive pale limb, thick as a bus, slick and scarred, curling upward along our hull plating. The light glistened off flesh that looked too solid for jelly, too soft for hide. Rows of circular suckers covered it, each the size of a helmet, some ringed in black bruises, others split open where sharp ridges gleamed beneath. It flexed once, slow, muscles rolling under its skin, and the sound of it gripping our steel came like 100 ret slaps, echoing through the storm. Another arm surged up from the darkness on the opposite side, striking midships and vanishing again in spray. The ship listed hard, water spilling across the bow. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then the chaos broke loose. Rifles snapped up, men firing into the thing's surface, muzzle flashes strobing through rain. Bullets hit and disappeared without effect, leaving only tiny black pits that oozed something dark. Machine guns joined in, hammering down arcs of fire. The smell of cordite mixed with salt and oil. I don't remember deciding to run topside. It just happened. The world outside was a storm of noise and movement. Rain whipped across my face. Decks slipped beneath my boots. The ship leaned so far over I nearly lost footing. "Get back from the rails," someone screamed. But another wave hit and shoved me down. My knees slammed steel. As I scrambled up, I saw the sea bulge upward near the bow. Not a wave, but a shape rising from below. The water boiled, that a dome of flesh rolled under the surface, trailing more of those arms. A flare fired from somewhere astern, rising in a bright hiss and bursting high overhead. For a few seconds the world turned white, and there it was, spread just below the waves, enormous and wrong. Not a whale, not a squid, not anything I could name. A swollen body the color of bone, limbs spiraling out in all directions, the center pulsing like a heart. Near the core, I caught a flash of something solid and curved, like the edge of a beak made of iron. Then the light burned out, and darkness swallowed it whole. "Keep firing," Reeves' voice cracked through the loudspeaker, for once loud enough to carry fear. "Engineering, all head full." The ship groaned in protest as the engines screamed, vibration rattling the rails under my hands. but the bow didn't move. It was anchored, pinned. Something's holding the nose. Delaney shouted through the comms, his voice breaking into static. I remember Ramirez beside me, drenched, grabbing my belt as another wave crashed over the deck. The water came cold and hard enough to knock breath from my lungs. For a moment, my legs were over open sea, the black weight of it pulling. Ramirez yanked me back, slammed me flat, and pinned me there with his full weight. "Stay down, idiot," he shouted. When the next wave hit, it only scraped past our helmets. The deck pitched again, a long, slow wrenching that sent everyone staggering. Somewhere forward, metal tore. The sound was low but thick, like fabric ripping underwater. "Captain," Hale's voice came through the line, shaky but clear. "Sonar dome's reading overload. Something's pressing on it. Returns are off the scale." Reeds didn't answer. He stood by the bridge glass, jaw locked, watching flashes of movement beneath the surface. Then finally he made his call. "All power ahead full. Hold course. We tear free or we die here." The engine screamed. Steel trembled. The ship's frame flexed so violently it felt alive beneath us. Suckers popped off the hull one by one with sounds like exploding bubbles, each leaving behind ragged circles of pale residue. Then the dome itself gave way. We didn't see it, but we heard it, a deep internal shriek as rubber and metal tore apart. Suddenly the tension vanished. The ship lunged forward free. Men hit the deck as it surged ahead, wake exploding behind us and froth in broken waves. The searchlights swept back and forth, but whatever had held us was already gone. Only drifting debris and shredded foam remained. "Cease fire," Reeves ordered at last, voice hoarse. Rain hissed as guns fell silent. On sonar, Hale stared at her flickering screens. "Captain," she said quietly, "the dome's damaged. We're half blind, but I still have a mast back there, falling behind." Reeves closed his eyes for a second, just one. "Keep tracking it," he said. We moved on through the storm, every man soaked, shaking, and silent. The marks left on our hull looked like the fingerprints of a god, dark rings overlapping, steel scuffed raw inside their centers. Some of the older guys crossed themselves when they saw them. Ramirez lit a cigarette with trembling hands, the flame fighting the rain. He didn't say a word. I stayed on deck until the dawn's first light hit, staring into the wake where the sea still churned. It looked calm again, but we all knew the calm was a lie. Beneath that quiet skin, something massive drifted with us, waiting for its next move. The days that followed bled together like one long hangover from fear and exhaustion. We moved slower, not because of orders, but because the ship itself felt heavy, wounded. The sonar dome, our ear to the deep, was half destroyed, leaving the displays blind with static. The operator stared at those screens anyway, as if willing shapes to appear. Some of the underwater cameras still worked, giving narrow glimpses of torn rubber flapping in the current, edges shredded into ribbons. Every now and then a shadow drifted across the frame, but never stayed long enough to identify. The forward compartments kept leaking, a thin trickle that never stopped, like the sea reminding us it was still pressing its hand against the hull. Pumps ran non-stop. We lived with the hum of them like a heartbeat, waiting for silence that never came. The radio was worse. Static swallowed whole messages, sometimes breaking through only long enough to let half a sentence crawl out of the air before fading again. Command tried to check on us, but most words were lost to noise. Out there in that stretch of water, it felt like the world had narrowed to just us, the sea, and the thing that refused to leave. Sleep stopped meaning rest. Even when you lay down, you never really drifted off. You just closed your eyes and waited for the next jolt. A couple of sailors refused to stay in the forward berths entirely. They volunteered for extra shifts near the stern, just to keep distance from the bow. One of them told me he could feel the hull pulse under him at night, like something brushing it from below. Another snapped out right during chow, screaming that the thing was gonna pull the nose under. The corpsman had to sedate him, tie him down in sickbay. No one laughed. We all felt the same crack inside, just quieter. The hits started again, not full-on attacks, just quick, mean jolts that made the steel tremble. A slam under the bow, a rattle along the keel, a shove that spilled coffee from every cup. Sometimes a locker would pop open and hurl a wrench across the room. One morning, the galley shelves dumped plates when the hull shook, and a heavy box flew out of a storage cabinet, smashed into a sailor's leg and broke it clean. Delaney cursed his way through the repair logs, jaw tight, shoulders sagging. Reeves called more drills, more watches, trying to keep minds occupied. He even spoke over the intercom once, rare for him. His voice filled every compartment, steady but sharp. There will be no talk of monsters on my ship. We have damage from an unknown marine creature. That's all. We handle it like professionals. Fear is contagious. Don't feed it." The words helped a little, gave us something solid to hold. But behind closed doors, the officers knew better. I know because I was there, outside the chart room again with my ever-present coffee pot. Through the cracked door, Hale's voice. "It's not random, Captain. The attacks come when we're adjusting speed. Mid-turn, when the ship's least stable. It's testing us." "Reeves, you're certain?" "As certain as I can be with half my equipment shot," she said. "It's learning our movements." Delaney chimed in over the comm speaker. "Captain, I'm seeing pressure spikes on hull sensors every time sonar pings. When we go quiet, it backs off. When we make noise, it comes closer." Reeves hesitated. "So it hears us, or it likes the sound," Delaney said grimly. "Maybe it thinks we're singing dinner." The next morning brought rain thick enough to erase the horizon. Waves rose higher, slamming across the forecastle, sending cold spray over the rails. You'd think rough seas would have shaken it off us, but the presence below didn't fade. It adapted. The ship heaved and pitched. Men stumbled through passageways, and still the sensors flickered with faint pulsing shapes that followed just out of range. During a break in the storm, Hale caught one clear ping that made her stop breathing. It wasn't a blur this time, but a form. Massive central body surrounded by multiple extensions, each stretching outward at impossible angles. "It's ahead of us," she said quietly, staring at the display. "Right in our path." Reeves studied the chart, face drawn. "We can't outrun it forever." "No, sir," she said. "And if it keeps this up, we won't make port." "Options? None good." Reeves looked older than I'd ever seen him then, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. "We're dealing with something that reacts faster than we can think," he said softly. "It's not attacking to kill, it's studying us, feeling us out." His voice dropped lower, and his patient. Nobody argued. Out on deck, the air felt thick, full of charge, the kind that comes before lightning but never delivers. I kept catching glimpses of movement in the waves, flashes of lighter gray under the surface, like tendons shifting beneath skin. Men spoke less now. Even Ramirez had gone quiet, the life drained out of his voice. He'd smoke, stare at the water, and when I asked what he thought it was, he just said, "Something old." I didn't ask again. That evening, just before sunset, a new impact rocked us. Smaller than the first encounter, but sharp, biting. It sounded almost deliberate. A single strike under the bow, then another to starboard. Hale flinched at her console, muttering, "It's toying with us." Reeves' knuckles turned white on the rail. He looked out at the darkening sea, rain glistening on the glass. "All stations stand ready," he said quietly. "We're being hunted." None of us wanted to believe it, but the silence that followed said we already did. The next strike came before dawn. In rain so thick, the deck vanished beyond 10 feet. I was already awake when the impact hit, a heavy, dragging shove that made the hull scream. Men tumbled from their racks as lockers burst open and gear clattered across steel floors. "Bow compartments flooding," someone yelled down the passageway. By the time Delaney reached the scene, water was knee-deep and rising. His team sealed the watertight doors just as a pipe blew behind them, a column of seawater spraying across the corridor like a fire hose. "We've lost that section," he shouted into the comms. Pumps roared, straining to keep up. The ship's nose rode lower after that, subtle but sickening, a tilt you could feel in your stomach. "We're heavier up front," Delaney told Reeves later. "We can hold it, but not forever." Reeves didn't look away from the chart spread across the table. "We'll manage," he said, though his voice was paper-thin. Behind him, Hale flipped through her notebook, pages filled edge to edge with coordinates and times. A map of the thing's behavior drawn in graphite in dread. "It's not stopping, sir," she said. "It keeps testing us, then backing off. It's like it's waiting for something. Or someone," Delaney muttered through the speaker. Reeves turned toward the porthole where only rain streaks and gray churn showed. "We're not staying out here waiting to find out," he said quietly. "If we can't fight it, we trick it." He looked to Hale. "That noise you said draws it. Can we make more?" She blinked once, then nodded. "We have decoys, noisemakers from training exercises. If I boost their signal, they can imitate our ping pattern. Close enough? Close enough to fool something that hunts by sound." Delaney came back on the line. "We'll rig it to a cable off the stern. Run it loud, cut it loose, and pray it likes the taste." Reeves exhaled slow. "Good. We'll drop it as bait, then run for shallower water. If it follows, we live. If it doesn't." He didn't finish. Orders spread fast. Men secured gear, tied down loose equipment, and cleared the fantail for the drop. I was assigned to sonar again. assisting Hale and her tech, Travis. On the bench sat the small metal box that was supposed to save us, a squat, scuffed piece of equipment the size of a lunch pail, with a transducer bolted to its side. Hale worked fast, soldering new connections and splicing leads to feed through the hull. "This will burn itself out in an hour if it's lucky," she said. "Let's hope that's enough." Outside, the sea slammed against the hull in rhythmic blows, as if listening. The crew on the fantail fought wind and spray as they threaded the heavy line through the pulley rig. Delaney was out there himself, soaked to the bone, barking orders over the roar. "Easy with that line, watch the slack." Lightning flickered far off, dull and greenish into the clouds. When everything was ready, Reeves came over the intercom. "Sonar, stand by to activate. Engineering, all ahead 2/3. Hold steady." Hale looked at me. "When I say now, throw that switch and don't touch it again." I nodded, palms slick with sweat. The ship shuddered again, a deep vibration that wasn't from our engines. "It's close," she said. "Very close." Then Reeves's voice cut through. "Sonar, now." Hale's hand came down. I threw the switch. Instantly, the hull began to hum with a new pulse, low and thick, echoing through every rivet and pipe. It wasn't a clean sonar ping. It was deeper, rougher, more like a heartbeat made of metal. "Signal stable," Hale said, eyes on the meter. "Pattern match 80%. Chief, drop it," Reeves ordered. On deck, Delaney signaled, and 3 sailors heaved the decoy over the rail. The cable sang as it uncoiled, the weight dragging it back into the dark. "Lines paid out," came the call. "She's trailing." For a few moments, nothing changed. Then the ship lurched, first backward, then forward, as if something massive shifted beneath us. "Contact moving," Hale shouted. "It's leaving the bow, shifting aft. It's going for the decoy." The entire crew felt the release. The deck lifted slightly under our boots as the pressure on the nose vanished. "Cut the line," Reeves ordered. Delaney hauled the quick-release lever. The tension snapped with a whip crack, and the decoy was gone, its signal still pounding through the deep. "Contact circling it," Hale said, voice trembling with relief. "It's focused on the noise." A distant rumble rolled through the hull, a vibration deeper than sound, and then the sea behind us erupted. Waves thrashed in white bursts as something enormous coiled near the surface, illuminated in fleeting flashes by the ship's stern lights, just outlines, nothing solid, but enough to know it was there. "Helm, best speed ahead," Reeves commanded. "New course, bring us towards shallow ground." "Aye, sir," came the reply. Engines roared, the ship shivering as it pushed forward. We watched the sonar scopes until the last smear of the contact faded into static. Hale leaned back, exhaling for the first time in hours. "It's staying," she said, still near the decoy. Reeves didn't answer, just kept his eyes on the rain-smeared horizon. For the first time since that night of screaming steel, we were moving away. I stayed at my station long after my shift ended, watching for any hint of return, but the screens stayed empty except for noise. Out there in the black, the decoy kept beating its false heart, drawing the thing deeper and farther until it vanished into static. The ocean around us smoothed out again. Not peaceful, just indifferent. When I finally lay down, the hum under the deck was all I heard. Engines alive, pumps steady. No knocks, no scraping, no breath against the hull. I want to believe that silence meant safety, but deep down I knew it only meant we'd traded one kind of waiting for another. We reached San Diego days later than scheduled, crawling in like a wounded animal. The sea had finally let us go, but none of us trusted the quiet that followed. When the coast appeared out of the haze, brown hills, cranes, sunlight flashing off car windows, it looked unreal, like a movie still stuck on pause. The base tugboats guided us in the dry dock, their engines growling while our own wound down with a groan of relief. For the first time since that night, we could see what the ocean had done to us. As the water drained from the dock, the USS Stein settled onto her blocks. The smell of salt and rust thickened the air. We leaned over railings and catwalks, every man silent, waiting for the truth to show itself. When the lower hull came into view, there was no mistaking it. The sonar dome, our so-called ear, looked mauled. The rubber coating, normally smooth and black, had been shredded in long curling strips, as if something had tried to peel it open with claws. Some of the tears ran longer than a man's height. Technicians in white suits and face shields moved in with cameras and pliers. They started pulling small objects from the deepest cuts, curved fragments, yellowish white, hard as horn. Tentacle hooks, they called them. Each one shaped like a bent fingernail, each one lodged in the torn rubber like teeth left behind in meat. They measured, cataloged, and sealed them in plastic tubes. No one spoke. Someone muttered a number. Over 8% of the dome's surface destroyed. The damage pattern didn't match rocks or nets. Didn't look like scraping against the seafloor. It looked alive. I remember the way Reeves stood apart, hands behind his back, rain still drying in his hair. He said nothing, just watched as the scientist went. Later, when the reports came in, they said the hooks resembled those of giant squid, except these were far too big. One biologist went pale when he read the measurements, whispering that if they were genuine, the creature that left them was larger than anything recorded. Officially, the Navy called it an unknown marine organism. Unofficially, every man on that ship called it something else. The word monster never made the paperwork, but it was there between every line. They gathered us by division and mess and told us to keep our mouths shut. The Stein encountered and sustained damage from a large aquatic animal, the briefing officer said, reading from his prepared notes. End of statement. No further comment is to be made in public. They made it sound simple, mechanical, like we'd hit driftwood. Reeves signed the paperwork in silence, his signature a single line of defiance against the blandness of bureaucracy. Afterward, I caught him in his cabin once, writing in a notebook I'd never seen before. Small, black, unmarked. His pen scratched fast, his face unreadable. Hale salvaged what she could from sonar, printed logs, partial recordings, still frames from that last clear ping. She stored them in a plain folder marked only with the date. Then she closed her brown notebook and never opened it again. Years later, I heard she'd wake up some nights swearing she could still hear pings echoing in her head, the rhythm of that pulse that had stalked us. Delaney went back to his engines, proud they'd survived the ordeal, but something in him had changed too. He didn't curse at the sea anymore. He'd just mutter to the new crews, "Check your valves twice," then walk off without explaining why. Ramirez, poor bastard, never told another sea story. He joked again eventually, smoked like nothing happened, but whenever someone mentioned Kraken or ghost ships, his eyes went distant, and he'd excuse himself without a word. As for me, I got out a few years later. Thought leaving the Navy would wash it out of me. It didn't. The first time I swam again, in a pool on base, the deep end hit me like a wall. The silence down there felt wrong, as if something was waiting under the tiles. I surfaced shaking, blamed the chlorine, never went back. People love to laugh when I mention that deployment. Sea monsters, huh? They say. That make good stories in port. I just smile and tell them the ocean's big enough to keep its secrets, because the truth isn't funny, it's heavy. Somewhere in a locked cabinet, there's a file full of photos, lab reports, and those bagged fragments we pulled from the dome. Somewhere there's still a copy of Hale's sonar logs, lines of code showing the shape that followed us, the pattern it traced, the impossible mass that matched our every turn. Maybe it's all buried now, forgotten under newer projects, newer wars. But I know what I saw, what I heard through that steel skin, a sound too deep for machines, too patient for nature, something old enough to mistake our ship for prey, smart enough to test us before letting go. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still feel the Stein shudder, still hear the wet pop of those suckers tearing loose. And when the world gets too quiet, when the air feels thick and the night too still, I swear I can hear it again, that low pulse rising from below, slow and deliberate, like it remembers my name. And that, brothers, is how the USS Stein limped home. A steel ghost that came back from the deep with teeth marks carved into her hull and silence written into her logs. The Navy buried the evidence in classified drawers, called it marine damage, and went on like nothing ever happened. But we remember. Every man on that deck still hears that sound in his bones, the low pulse from under the world. Maybe it was just an animal. Maybe it was something older, something the ocean forgot to warn us about. Out there, below 1,000 feet of dark, the sea keeps its secrets, and sometimes it reminds us who's really in charge. If you made it this far, hit that like button. It helps keep this channel alive. Drop a comment with where you're watching from, and tell me what you think was under that ship in '78. And remember, sailors, the next time you hear something tapping under the waves, it might not be the sea talking back. This is Captain Rebel, signing off. Stay sharp, stay curious, and never trust calm water.